order to tell you this story, I need to bring you back to where it all begun, in 1841 Saratoga, New York. Solomon Northup was a black man who was kidnapped and sold into slavery. James H. Birch kidnapped Solomon and sold him to William Ford. William Ford was kind to Solomon, but eventually sold him to John M. Tibbets. Tibbets was cruel. Tibbets had eventually sold him to Edwin Epps, Solomon's last owner, who had owned him for 10 years before Henry B. Northup, a lawyer, and Bass, an abolitionist, rescued him from slavery. Before Solomon Northup had even been sold into slavery, he had already seen just a glimpse of the hardships that he'd begin to face in the future. On page 18, it states, "It could not be that a free citizen of New York, who had wronged no man nor violated any law, should be dealt with thus inhumanely." Since Solomon was born free and grew up free, he didn't understand that things were going to be drastically different. On page 22, it says, "He stopped and then asked if I still insisted I was a free man. I did insist upon it, and then the blows were renewed." Slavery oppressed an entire race. No matter if you were a child, a woman, or a man, you all knew, no matter what, that you weren't worth anything. For hundreds of years, people had to grow up and live like that. This all started back in the 1600s and didn't end till 1856. There were so many effects of slavery, I can't even begin to name them all. Just to quickly name a few, there were physical and mental effects that left them scarred for life. Families were torn apart, mothers from fathers, mothers from children, fathers from children. Slave owners didn't care. Even though slavery was abolished in 1856, we still have forms of it today in 2018. It's called human trafficking, and it's a serious problem in our current world. It's affecting the ones that are most crucial to our future. People are being kidnapped and sold. What's the difference now than it was back when it was called slavery? The only difference is that it affects any race. Trafficking is one of the fastest growing crimes in the world. There is an estimated amount of 5.5 million children in the trafficking industry. The average age at which girls first become victims of prostitution is 12 to 14 years old. For boys, the average age of entry into prostitution is 11 to 13. Over 71% of trafficked children show suicidal tendencies. The organization that I have selected is called Red Light Traffic. They help identify victims of trafficking and connect them to get the help they need and restore them and rebuild their lives, as well as preventing through education, empowering the youth to end human trafficking.